My parents showed up to my house closing with a lawyer and a police report claiming I stole my down payment from them. And I was ready. I had been waiting for this exact moment for 6 years. Quick context because you need to understand the family I come from. I'm 28. My sister Jade is 32 and our entire childhood was built around her being the golden child while I existed to serve the family unit. Not in some subtle way either. My mom, Jade, told me directly when I was 16 that my job was to work and contribute because Jade needed support for her future. Jade got private tutoring. I got a part-time job at a hardware store at 14. Jade got her college paid for. I got told community college was good enough and I could live at home and pay rent. The expectation was always that I would stay. Stay in their house, stay contributing to the household, stay small. My dad Abraham used to say that family meant sacrifice and sacrifice meant I handed over most of my paychecks until I was 22. They tracked my bank account. They opened credit cards in my name when I was 19. When I found out and confronted them, Abraham told me I was being dramatic and that family shares everything. Okay, I need y'all to understand something about toxic family systems because this right here is a masterclass in how they operate. They don't just exploit you. They give you a title to make it feel noble. Family means sacrifice. Beautiful, poetic even. Except funny how sacrifice only flows one direction, isn't it? Jade's out here getting private tutors while I'm stocking shelves at 14. Like a character in a Victorian novel about child labor. And the credit card thing. Opening cards in your kid's name isn't family shares everything. That's called a federal crime. But narcissistic parents have this incredible ability to rebrand felonies as family values. We didn't steal your identity, sweetheart. We just included you in our financial journey without consent. I moved out at 22 after secretly saving for 8 months in a separate account they didn't know about. The fallout was nuclear. Jade called me ungrateful. Abraham said I was abandoning them. Jade posted on social media about how some people only care about themselves. I blocked them all and spent the next 6 years building my life, my credit, my career. I make good money now in logistics. I drive a 2019 Tacoma I paid off early. And every single day of those 6 years, I thought about what would happen when they eventually found out I was doing well, because I knew they would. My aunt on my mom's side still talked to me occasionally, and I knew information leaked both directions. I never told her anything sensitive, but I let her know I was doing okay. I wanted them to hear it. I wanted them to stew in the knowledge that their workhorse had escaped and thrived. This is strategic pettiness, and honestly, I respect it deeply. Most people go no contact and try to disappear completely. Hidden Lies said, "No, I'm going to let just enough information trickle back like a slow drip of I'm doing better without you poison." That aunt was basically a carrier pigeon delivering emotional warfare. And I knew it. 6 years of building yourself up while knowing your abusers are hearing about every success. That's not just healing. That's healing with a soundtrack. Every promotion, every payment on that Tacoma, every good day was a brick in the wall they were eventually going to run face first into. 3 months ago, I closed on a house. Nothing fancy. 3-bedroom in a decent neighborhood, but it was mine. I found out through my realtor, Logan, that someone had been calling his office asking questions about my purchase. He thought it was weird and gave me a heads up. I knew immediately. So when closing day came and I walked into the title office and saw Abraham and Jade sitting there with a man in a suit holding a folder, I didn't even flinch. Abraham had this smug look like he had finally caught me. Jade was practically vibrating with self-righteousness. The lawyer introduced himself and said they were there to file an objection to the sale based on a fraudulent lien and theft of funds. The title officer looked panicked. Logan looked confused. I just sat down across from them and said, "Go ahead." Abraham started talking about how the down payment I used was money that belonged to the family retirement fund, money I had stolen before I moved out 6 years ago. He had documents, bank statements with highlighted amounts, a notarized letter claiming I had access to their accounts and drained them, a police report filed 3 days before closing. Every single document was fabricated. I never had access to their retirement accounts. The amounts they claimed I stole were numbers they made up. The police report was based on their statement alone with no evidence. But they didn't know I had been preparing for this exact scenario for years. Abraham really walked into that title office thinking he was in a heist movie where the villain wins. Had his highlighted documents, his notarized lies, his smug little face ready to watch his son's dreams crumble. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there like a chess player who's been waiting 14 moves for you to touch that pawn. And can we talk about the audacity of fabricating an entire paper trail? These people didn't just lie. They committed to a craft. They sat down probably at the kitchen table and workshopped their fraud like a screenplay. "'Kay honey, what if we say he drained the retirement fund?" "Ooh, that's good, Abraham, very sympathetic. Let me get the highlighters." The confidence it takes to show up to a legal proceeding with completely fabricated evidence tells you everything about how these people have operated their whole lives. They've never faced consequences. They genuinely believe their own narrative so deeply that they thought reality would just cooperate. So there I was in the title office, my parents across the table with their hired lawyer. Abraham looking like he had just checkmated me. The title officer was asking if we needed to postpone the closing. Logan kept glancing at me like he was waiting for me to panic. And I just pulled out my own folder. See, when I moved out 6 years ago, I knew they would eventually try something. I didn't know exactly what, but I knew the playbook. Jod and Abraham had spent my entire life teaching me that I was property, not a person, that everything I earned belonged to the family unit. So when I left, I started building my defense. I kept every pay stub from every job going back to when I was 14. I had bank statements from every account I ever opened. I had tax returns showing exactly what I made and where it went. I even had old text messages where Jod literally told me to deposit my checks into the household account because that was my contribution. I handed the folder to the title officer and told her to compare the timeline. The money in my down payment came from my own savings account that I opened when I was 22. The account my parents claimed I stole from was opened in 2019, 3 years after I moved out, and had zero contact with them. I never had access. I never had signatory rights. Their own bank could verify that in about 10 minutes. Abraham started talking over me, saying I had somehow manipulated the dates, that I was always good with computers and probably falsified records. Jod chimed in about how I had been sneaky my whole life, how they should have seen this coming. The lawyer looked increasingly uncomfortable as he flipped through my documentation. Growing up in a toxic household accidentally turned me into a forensic accountant. Most kids collect baseball cards. I was collecting evidence, pay stubs from age 14, tax returns, text message screenshots. That's not paranoia. That's pattern recognition. When you grow up with people who gaslight you daily, you learn real quick that documentation is survival. And Abraham's pivot to "he's good with computers" is sending me to another dimension. My guy, your son didn't hack the space-time continuum to fake timestamps on documents. The account was opened 3 years after he left. What's his theory here? That I invented time travel specifically to frame my parents for fraud? The mental gymnastics these people do to avoid accountability could qualify for the Olympics. Here's where Jade enters the picture. She wasn't at the closing itself. She showed up at my apartment that night around 9. I was staying there until the sale finalized. She must have gotten the address from our aunt because I certainly never gave it to her. She started banging on my door, demanding I let her in so we could talk like family. I opened the door but didn't let her inside. She launched into this whole speech about how I was tearing the family apart, how mom had been crying all afternoon, how dad's blood pressure was through the roof. She kept saying I needed to drop this whole house thing and come home and work things out. That I had made my point by leaving, but now it was time to stop being selfish. I asked her directly what exactly I had stolen. She said it wasn't about the specific money. It was about the years of support they gave me and how I just abandoned them without giving anything back. I reminded her that I worked from age 14 and handed over most of my income until I was 22. She said that was different because I lived under their roof and ate their food. Then she said the part that confirmed everything I already knew. She told me that mom and dad had been counting on me staying to help support them into retirement. That Jade had her own family now and couldn't be expected to carry that burden. That my job in this family was to be the provider because Jade had already given them grandchildren and that was her contribution. There it is right there. The mask didn't just slip. Jade ripped it off and threw it in a bonfire. She literally said out loud that my designated role in this family was retirement fund. Not son, not brother, not family member, financial infrastructure. And the way she frames her own contribution as, I gave them grandchildren, like that's a payment. Like procreation is a transaction that exempts you from all other family obligations. Jade really said, I did my job by having kids. Now it's your turn to be a human pension plan. This is what happens in dysfunctional family systems. Everyone gets assigned a role. And if you refuse to play your part, you're not seen as a person setting boundaries. You're seen as a broken appliance. The ATM stopped working. We need to fix it or get a new one. And the audacity to show up at my door after her parents just committed fraud and act like I'm tearing the family apart. Narcissistic families always frame the victim's resistance as the actual violence, not the decades of exploitation. Your boundaries are the problem. They literally plan to use me as a retirement fund, a human ATM. And when I escaped, I ruined their entire financial future. I told Jade that sounded like a them problem. She said I was going to regret this. That dad had connections and they were going to make sure everyone in my new neighborhood knew exactly what kind of person I was. I asked what that meant. She just smiled and said I'd find out soon enough. The lien got rejected within 48 hours. The title company's legal team verified my documentation and determined the claim had no merit. The closing proceeded. I got my keys. But Jade wasn't bluffing about Dad's plans. That sounds like a them problem is going in the Hall of Fame of responses. No emotion, no justification, just acknowledging that their poor financial planning due to counting on exploiting another human being is in fact their own mess to clean up. But Jade's little villain monologue with the smile and the you'll find out soon enough. Baby girl watched too many soap operas. She really thought she was delivering a threat when actually she was previewing evidence for the lawsuit that's about to destroy her entire family. We're going to defame you publicly isn't the power move you think it is when you say it out loud to the person you're threatening. These people genuinely don't understand that actions have consequences because they've never experienced consequences. They think they can just escalate infinitely and the universe will keep bending to their will. Spoiler alert, it will not. I moved into my house on a Saturday. By Tuesday, 3 different neighbors had knocked on my door to ask if everything was okay. The first one, an older woman from 2 houses down, seemed genuinely concerned. She said a man matching Abraham's description had come by on Sunday afternoon with a folder full of papers and some photos, telling her that a dangerous individual was moving onto the street and she should be careful. The second neighbor was more direct. He asked me straight up if I had a criminal record because some guy was going around saying I had theft charges and a history of manipulating elderly people out of their savings. He showed me one of the papers Abraham had been handing out. It was a typed document with my full name, my date of birth, and a list of completely fabricated charges. There was also a photo that Abraham must have dug out from when I was a teenager taken from an angle that made it look like a booking photo. I found out later that Abraham had spent 3 full days walking this neighborhood. He hit every single house on my street and the 2 streets behind mine. He told different versions of the same lie to different people. To some I was a thief. To others I was violent. To the elderly residents specifically, he warned them that I targeted older people for financial exploitation. My own father was systematically destroying my reputation in my new community before I even had a chance to introduce myself. Abraham really woke up and chose career criminal. 3 full days, every house on multiple streets, different lies tailored to different demographics. This man created a marketing campaign of defamation. But here's the thing, notice how the neighbors came to warn me. Multiple people knocked on my door concerned. Even Abraham's little smear campaign couldn't overcome the basic human instinct of, wait, let me hear the other side. I didn't just prepare documents for the closing. I prepared for everything. When I was 22 and I found out they had open credit cards in my name, I filed a police report. I had copies. When they forced me to sign over paychecks as a teenager, I kept records. When Jod sent me texts demanding money for household expenses even after I moved out, I screenshot every single one. I had 6 years of evidence that my family viewed me as property, not a person. I called a lawyer the Monday after I moved in. Not a real estate lawyer this time, a civil litigation attorney. I explained the fraudulent lien, the false police report, and now the defamation campaign. He told me I had multiple viable causes of action, including defamation per se, tortious interference, and potentially abuse of process for the fake lien. But he also told me something else. He asked if I wanted to pursue the identity theft from when I was 19. Those credit cards my parents opened in my name had defaulted before I found out about them. They damaged my credit for years. And I had the original police report proving I reported it when I discovered what they did. I told him to prepare everything. All of it. I wanted them to understand that their actions had consequences. Meanwhile, Abraham kept going. He started posting in neighborhood Facebook groups warning people about a new resident with a troubled past. He didn't use my full name, but the description was obvious. Some neighbors started avoiding me at the mailbox. Then came Friday night. I had rented a moving truck to bring the rest of my furniture from storage. I parked it in my driveway overnight. Saturday morning, I walked outside to find "Ungrateful Thief" spray painted in red letters across my garage door. All 4 tires on the truck were slashed and Jade's car was parked across the street, engine still running. These people are speed-running their own destruction. Jade's car idling across the street at 7 in the morning. My garage door dripping red paint. My moving truck on 4 flat tires. I walked toward her and she rolled down her window looking smug. She told me to consider it a housewarming gift. That maybe now I'd understand what happens when you betray family. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Told her I was documenting her confession. She laughed and said no one would believe me. I pointed at my neighbor standing on his porch watching everything. The same guy who showed me Abraham's fake documents. He waved. Jade stopped laughing and drove off. Police came, filed the report. My neighbor confirmed he saw Jade's car before I came outside. Tire slashing plus spray paint meant felony vandalism charges. But my attorney had been busy with bigger things. We filed civil suits against Abraham and Jad for defamation with multiple neighbor witnesses. We filed abuse of process claims for the fraudulent lien and false police report. And we reopened the identity theft case from when I was 19. Abraham and Jad got served 2 weeks after I moved in. Jade got arrested 3 days later. Posted bail. Criminal case pending. Then my attorney sent the demand letter outlining every cause of action, every piece of evidence, damages sought, and that the DA had reopened the identity theft investigation. 10 days to respond. Abraham held out 8 days. Then my phone exploded. 206 calls in 14 hours. I let everyone go to voicemail. First messages were angry, calling me ungrateful. By message 50, he was negotiating, offering public apologies. By 100, his voice was shaking. 206 calls. Let that number sink in. This man made 206 phone calls in 14 hours. That's a call every 4 minutes for an entire day. The desperation trajectory from angry to negotiating to shaking is the 5 stages of grief compressed into a voicemail marathon. And me letting every single call go to voicemail is the most powerful thing in this entire story. No engagement, no argument, no opportunity for manipulation. Just silence after a lifetime of being controlled, demanded of, guilt-tripped, and exploited. Silence. There's something deeply satisfying about watching someone who spent decades holding power over you completely lose that power. Abraham used to track my bank account. Now he can't even get me to pick up the phone. The reversal is complete. Voicemail 173 is the one I saved. Abraham barely coherent, saying that they were going to lose everything. The lawyer told them they could lose the house if judgments went against them. Jad hadn't stopped crying. He was begging. Please answer. They'd do anything. I never called back. Attorney handled everything. They treated me like property for 22 years. Stole my income, my credit, my childhood. When I escaped, they tried destroying my future with fake documents and neighborhood poison campaigns and vandalism. Now they experience what it feels like when someone takes everything from you. I'm still in my house. Garage got repainted. Neighbors know the truth. And my parents learned that family means consequences.